Hey there, Pyromaniacs. This is an unscripted video that I just kind of wanted to throw out there real quick, because it took me an embarrassing amount of time to realize that Halo Infinite Season 4 is going on right now. So yeah, it seems like Halo Infinite is finally achieving seasonality, because it's only been 3 months since the last season, which honestly is really cool. If they can continue this level of upkeep, then I think that Halo Infinite might be able to turn around within this decade, or at the very least, have the content that Halo Reach had at launch. But seriously, like, this caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting it to come this soon. So I haven't really been paying attention to Halo stuff. I'd been seeing a few things about Season 4, and I just assumed they were leaks, because that's how we get all of our information nowadays. I just assumed they were leaks, and it took me a little while to realize, oh, wait a minute, Season 4 is going on right now. So, what abundance of content did 343 give us for Halo Infinite Season 4? We finally got Infection! The game mode! Hey, remember when Infection was, like, not just one of the modes that was, like, included in Halo 4, but was in fact one of the modes that was, like, used to market the game because they totally overhauled the mode? Like, yeah, the way that they changed the mode made custom games more difficult and was in a lot of ways a downgrade, but it was still there at launch. It took Halo Infinite a year and a half to get a game mode that a Halo 4 had at launch. I'm happy that it's here, but holy crap, it took us a year and a half to get it! But I digress. I'm not gonna get angry, because I actually enjoy this update. I'm gonna talk more about what they did with Infection later on, and right now, I'm just gonna focus on this season's new armor core. And can I just say, can we stop getting new armor cores? Because I'm starting to notice a very serious design flaw in how armor cores work, and that is the fact that there's already so many of them and we're only 4 seasons in. It takes me so long to scroll through all of the armor cores that I have at this point, because mixed with all the season exclusive cores and the fracture cores that, by the way, are only really used for like singular limited time events and then are no longer supported. So I think it's about time for 343 to stop adding new cores for a while and focus on adding more armor pieces for the cores that already exist, because this is starting to get a little bit ridiculous, and I don't want to see in like 2 or 3 years having to scroll through like a mile's length of different armor cores. That's just gonna get tedious and annoying to sort through all of those. Or, you know, ideally, just get rid of armor cores entirely? Okay, tangent over. Let's talk about the new core. This season's armor core is hazmat themed, which does to some degree kind of work with the whole Infection thing. Although it doesn't really make sense for the lore with how Infection works in this game, but we'll get to that later. So I've been seeing a lot of hate for this armor core online already, but personally, I kind of like it. There are some pieces that look a little bit Halo 5-ish that I'm not a huge fan of, but generally speaking, I don't hate a lot of this. I think it's interesting seeing a Mjolnir armor where the undersuit isn't this skin-tight suit, but instead is a little bit more baggy and insulated. It looks different from traditional Mjolnir, but still looks definitively Halo. And I think this kind of gives me faith that there are still people at 343 that understand how to sort of evolve the Halo aesthetic while still keeping it feel like classic Halo. Once again, there are still certain armor pieces that look a little bit too 343, but generally speaking, I think this armor core looks cool. There's like this cool hazmat version of a classic Mark 6 helmet, and that thing looks insane. I love the look of that one. So yeah, I think the hate for this core is a little bit unwarranted. I feel like people are letting a few ugly armor pieces spoil the whole batch. So now let's talk about the main focus of this season, that being the Infection game mode that once again should have been in the game to begin with. So, because everything in multiplayer nowadays needs a lore explanation, because for some reason 343 thinks that they can't have anything in the game without there being a lore lore explanation. The lore explanation for infection being added into the game is that the banished AI Ratus has essentially taken over the wargames simulation, which was pretty heavily hinted at in the last season. In fact, all of this was pretty much leaked at the beginning of Season 3. So we've known where the Iratu story arc has been leading up to for a very long time. And with this season comes the finale to the Iratu story arc. And the story of Halo Infinite's multiplayer as a whole, because it's been confirmed that future seasons will not have any cutscenes or lore explanations or lore dumps to coincide with everything, which I'm sure has to do with the fact that they fired the entire campaign team. I don't want to harp on this too much because I do have a scripted video in the works where I'm going to talk a little bit more extensively about this, but it is really disappointing that we're not going to see these characters in the game anymore, because I've actually started to get connected to Din. I think he's a really cool and interesting character, so the fact that he's most likely just going to disappear for the foreseeable future is really disappointing, but I'm sure we're going to get a lot of books with Din in there. A lot of books with Din and Eklund and whatever the other chick's name is. I can't remember her name. Atagonye? I don't care. She's not very interesting. But I'm sure Din and Eklund will show up in a book somewhere, right alongside Iratus. Welcome to modern Halo storytelling, everybody. You read a book. I probably shouldn't do unscripted Halo videos. I have too much pent-up aggression for this series. As for the Infection game mode itself, it's Infection. I really like Infection. It's probably one of my favorite, kind of party-style game modes in Halo. I'm happy that it's finally here. There are a few changes that I find interesting. The zombies are way faster than they used to. I went back and played some Halo 3, 4, and 5 Infection, just to try and gauge, how each one felt. Surprise, surprise, Halo 5 felt the most unbalanced. It is interesting, though, that in Halo Infinite, the survivors feel like they've been nerfed a little bit, and the zombies feel like they've been buffed. As the survivors, it feels like you have more limited ammo. I can't remember exactly what your ammo count was in the other games, but it just felt like you had less ammo to go around. But on the flip side, it actually encourages you to then scavenge the area for more ammo pickups. And there are a ton of weapons lying around. So it does encourage the survivors to be a little bit smarter and not just camp in one area. That being said, you easily can just camp in one area because most of these maps have turrets on them, which I think is a little bit weird, and kind of removes a bit of the tension because then you just have a straight up unlimited ammo weapon just sitting right there for you to take advantage of. So while I say that the survivors got nerfed and the zombies got buffed, that's not entirely true. It just kind of changed how these different roles are intended to be played. But I don't really have much else to say about it. It's still a fun mode. I still enjoy it. I don't really have anything to complain about. It's Infection. I enjoy Infection. I think it's a fun game mode. I've been clamoring for its inclusion since I realized it wasn't in the game. Season 4 also added 2 new maps, an arena map called Forest and a BTB map called Scar. Forest is very clearly supposed to be sort of an homage to Delta Halo, with this stone temple look going on. It's a fun map, it's got a lot of cool areas, it has quite a few lanes to run through, and especially on Infection, it has a lot of really interesting vantage points. I haven't played it with traditional Slayer yet, so I don't know how it plays on a normal game mode, but it is a cool map, if a bit small, and I can see it playing really well in certain game modes. Scar, on the other hand, I'm not a huge fan of. For a big team battle map, it's very corridor-based, and continues to show 343's very clear disdain for vehicular combat. You cannot fit anything bigger than a mongoose through most of this map. I don't understand why we can't just have one big crazy battlefield. I don't understand why big team battle needs to be strictly boots on the ground stuff. Why vehicular combat is being so heavily discouraged by these map designs. I feel like it's totally counterintuitive to what's fun about big team team battle. It's just disappointing that 343 just can't seem to wrap their heads around this. And this is especially frustrating considering just how good Season 3's BTB map was. The season also added a progression system, which a lot of people have been clamoring for, and personally I haven't really been fighting for it as much as other people have because I kinda knew that we would have the problems that we are currently seeing with this new progression system. That being that there's not really any point to it. In the previous games, the whole point of the progression system was to unlock armor pieces. Well, in Halo Infinite, all armor pieces are behind a paywall. So why do we need a progression system? It's totally arbitrary. There's no point to it. It's just a shiny badge next to your gamer tag. It doesn't mean anything. Especially considering the other use for the progression system was to show how much time people have put into the game. Well, the game's already been out for like a year and a half at this point, so people have already put a ton of time into the game. So right now, someone that has like several hundred hours in the game could have the exact same rank as someone who's just starting out. And I'm sure that'll probably even out over time, but it still kinda makes it feel even more trivial. And that's pretty much all that was introduced in Season 4. All in all, a pretty good update. But yet again, I just feel like it's too little too late. Because yet again, all of this should have been in the game at launch. 343 is still playing catch-up, although I think the game is finally at a point where if it released in this state, I would be happy. And I don't think that the fatigue would have set in as fast as it did. Because I remember like a week or like 2 weeks after the launch of the game, people were already looking at this game and going, okay, where's the rest of it? And I feel like if the game had released in this current state, people may have been more inclined to wait a little while before getting any more content. And that's basically all I have to say about Season 4. I feel like I'm finally having fun with Halo Infinite again. And I don't know how long that'll last, because just in general I haven't been playing a lot of multiplayer games at all lately. Halo is really the only multiplayer game that I really play consistently nowadays, and nothing else has really been able to really appeal to me. I'm just curious to see how long they're going to be able to hold my attention this time around. If I were to write down like a wish list of like what else this game would need for me to consider it like complete, it wouldn't be a very long list at this point. Basically just Griffball, some sort of PvE mode, the addition of cross-core, and that's about it. Because I've given up on this being the ultimate perfect Halo game that we've all been begging for, and at this point, I just want this game to be good. Just good. Just a good game that we can all enjoy, and I think we're finally getting there. And with that, thanks for watching. If you like this video, leave a like and become a pyromaniac yourself by subscribing. Until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.